In this lesson, we're going to be looking at end behavior. What does end behavior even mean? All it actually means is the following. What it means is that we are going to look on the very right-hand side of the graph, and all that we want to know is, does the graph go up or does the graph go down? That's all we're actually looking at. Then we're going to do the same on the left. So we're going to look over here. Are we going to see, does the graph go up or does the graph go down? Pretty boring, right? But that's what we talk about when we say end behavior. We're talking about the end on this side and the end on this side. And there's an easy way to determine whether it goes up or whether it goes down. Some functions go down on the left and up on the right. So they might look something like this. Some of them go up on both sides. So they do something like that. Some of them go down on both sides, like that. Some of them are up on this side and down on that side. I'm going to show you exactly how to work this out. So all that you do is the following, okay? So if you look on the very right-hand side, if you think about the x values, these x values are, you can think of a really big x value. Just think of 1,000,000, or think about the biggest x value that you can, infinity. Okay, so what I want you to then do is look at this expression, and I want you to take the highest power, which is this one over here, and I want you to plug infinity into that. Right, don't worry about this part. Now, what would this number become? Would it become a very big positive number, or would it become a very big negative number? Well, there's no negatives there, so it's not going to end up being negative. It's going to end up being positive. When it's positive, remember, this is like the y value. So we're saying that the y value is very positive. So it's going to be very large. It's going to be up here. So that means the graph is going to go like that. Okay? Now, what I want you to then do is look at on this side. On this side, think about it, a very big x value. Well, technically a very small x value. We can think about negative infinity. So I want you to take this expression again and go plug in negative infinity. Now some of you might say, oh, that's going to be negative, but we'll remember that if you have something negative to the power of 2, it actually ends up becoming a positive, because if you multiply two negatives together, it's still going to be positive. So this is still going to be a very big positive number. So it's going to be up here. And so that means the graph is going to look something like that. Okay, so we figured that one out. Let's do another example. So here's our next example. So once again, you're going to plug in a very big x value on the right-hand side. So let's use infinity. Take the highest power. So that's this one. Don't worry about the rest. So you're going to put in infinity to the power of 3. That's a really big number. So we're going to put a little dot up at the top. So the end behavior, it's definitely going to go something like that. Then I want you to use negative infinity. So you're going to plug in negative infinity. Now, here's where you got to be careful. That's going to be negative infinity multiplied by negative infinity multiplied by negative infinity. A negative and a negative and a negative makes a negative. So that's a very small y value. So that's going to be down here. See, if it was a big y value, it would be up here. If it's a small y value, it's down here. So this graph end behavior is going to look something like that. So maybe the graph would do something like this, for example. We don't know that, but that doesn't really matter. We just want to know what happens on that side and on that side. Here's another example. So you take the largest power, and for the very right-hand side, you plug in infinity. So what is infinity to the power of 4? That's going to be a very big positive number, so it's going to look something like that. And then if you type in negative infinity, which is for this side, it's to the power of 4. So think about this. Negative multiplied by negative, multiplied by negative, multiplied by negative. It's going to be a positive number. So that's going to be up here. And so the graph is going to be like this. So maybe this graph would do something like that. We don't really know. But we know that it's going to go up on that side and it's going to go up on that side. Here's our last example. So to check the very right-hand side, you type in infinity, but not in the negative, only for the x. There we go. Now this part here is going to be positive infinity, but you've got a negative in the front of that. So that's going to make negative infinity. So that's very small. So that's somewhere down here. Then I want you to type in on the left-hand side, which is going to be negative infinity. So it's going to look something like this. Now, this part here is negative infinity multiplied by negative infinity multiplied by negative infinity, which is negative infinity. Then if you combine that with this negative, that makes a positive. So that means it's going to be a very large y value. It's a very large y value, which is up here. And so this graph might look something like that, for example. We don't really know, but we know that it's going to go down on the right and it's going to go up on the left-hand side.